Welcome to Success on Your Terms. The mission of this podcast is simple: to give you the strategy, skills, thinking tools, and to share incredible stories from mission led business owners so you create the life you want and success on your terms. Alessia, welcome to Success on Your Terms. It's a pleasure to have you on. It's going to be a different conversation to what I'm normally used to, which was, well, I'd seen you in a community online. And again, this is how great connections and business grow. I got in contact and said, like, I'd love to have you come on and share around something very different, but also link that into success on your own terms and a conversation. I know sometimes maybe I'm having a bit more personally on things and not in business. But I think sometimes those conversations are the ones that also need to come into our lives in business, because I don't see them as two separate things. It's all one. So we'll kick off. Tell us about you. Do share obviously what you do, and then anything that you want to allude on. Sometimes I say something random, but let it take you anywhere.
Okay, so I'm Alessia Wallace and I'm a certified nutritionist and coach. And at the moment, I'm kind of trying to build my business back up, like working one-to-one with clients. I've got like a free support community as well for people who are reducing their BMI, basically for fertility treatment. That's something that's very close to my heart. It's a journey that I went through myself a couple of years ago now. And that's kind of like what I do, like I suppose as a business. But yeah, but personally, I suppose I've always really been interested in nutrition, always been like a fan of like podcasts around those topics and always learning and everything like that. But I suppose, and then I even qualified as a nutritionist and as a coach, always with the idea of wanting to have a business around that as well, but not quite knowing what. But then I suppose my personal experience with trying to conceive and that like taking a lot longer than I thought it was going to, and then kind of finding out about IVF and reasons like kind of going down that route, I suppose. And then I think the catalyst really was in the first consultation of the first IVF consultation, the doctor saying to me, "Oh, why don't you just do a crash diet to reduce your BMI basically, and just to kind of get onto the NHS waiting list really quickly." And that kind of just blew my mind because I thought, first of all, why would they say, just do a crash diet? And then it kind of just opened up this world of me finding like, the kind of whole like fertility world basically online, and like other like majority like women doing absolutely like going to extremes to try and reduce their weight, basically to try and start fertility treatment as quickly as possible. And that really kind of sparked a fire in me where I thought, okay, I have all the nutrition knowledge, I know how to help people, and this is really what I feel passionate about, that I want to help people with. So yeah, that's kind of where the personal and the business, I suppose, kind of mingles up together.
There's loads within that. Even I've got like there's purpose, there's the like you said, the business, then there's like someone said just lose that weight. It's like there's so much in that. And
Mhm.
I guess we'll go to the purpose part first, because it's great that, and it's love, like people build businesses because it comes from a place of true meaning and
Mhm.
purpose. And I think I said it before with my membership yesterday. I said, I think sometimes we can take for granted sometimes, and we get in these bubbles of great people around us. Before the call, you were just saying about accountability group you're in, and we get in
Mhm.
our own little, sometimes they're clicks in a way, but we're in those worlds and we forget that lots of people don't know, like there was a part there just coming through for me around education, that they're not
Mhm.
aware of things, they're not aware of, purpose in life, they're not aware of what you're saying around the challenges, the journeys, like what that looks like to go on. And that's why I'm really key with this podcast, to bring people on like yourself to expand and let people know, the heighten the awareness that there are different things you can do, like what it looks
Mhm.
like, apart from you just, like, if I didn't know about this, then you could very much be 10 timesing everything in your head and seeing no way forward for it. So this is why it's so
Mhm.
important that we, like with messaging that I do, we get our messages out there to people that
Mhm.
want, like, that need to know about it, that want the help and the
Yeah.
support, that want to overcome the symptoms of where they're at right now and the struggles, and
Yeah.
to solve that, because they can. And if we don't tell people that about this and raise their awareness, we're not going to.
Yeah.
Um, where did so I from what I took there was, again, like kind of take a crash diet, etc. Like, where did that go to? What was then your next steps? And what was like, I guess, what was the pain point problem as such for you where you were?
Mhm.
Where did you want to be?
Yeah. So I suppose like for me, I was very much somebody who I played team sports, volleyball, rugby. I was eating well, I was exercising quite a lot, but just generally like, but my BMI was just higher than 30, basically.
Yeah.
But it's not really something that I felt like bad about in myself or felt like, I mean, obviously, you know, I grew up with diet culture like any other woman, I suppose, unfortunately, in this part of the world. So yes, of course, I would have moments where I'd feel a bit like, you know, like not so great about like the rolls on my belly or something like that, you
Mm.
know, like, you know, putting a bikini on or things like that. But anyway, like I wasn't like kind of like stuck in this head where I constantly thought, oh, I need to diet, I need to lose weight. Like I just wasn't in the headspace. I was very much appreciative of all the things my body can do, like I said, sports and everything like that. So then, first of all, I suppose being faced with having to lose weight, that was a bit like, okay, um, I feel super healthy in myself, and you know, like blood work and everything was speaking towards that as well. But then I suppose the consultant saying like to do a crash diet, and I think also the kind of experience of trying to conceive and being in that headspace and starting to kind of like question, you know, why is my body not working? Like I thought I'm like fit and healthy, like why can I not conceive? Um, and that kind of like, you know, feelings of failure like did creep in like more towards the trying to conceive thing, but then that really brought out a desperation where I thought, okay, maybe I should just try that crash diet, like maybe I should just only eat 1,200 calories and just see how I get on, basically. And it actually got me to a point where I did do that. I did try it because I thought, okay, maybe this is the answer to it, but shock, it wasn't. It's, you know, it didn't really work out that way. So I think I tried maybe for like a couple of weeks or so, and like it just didn't work, and then kind of sought like the actual help that I needed, I suppose. um so and also I suppose I kind of started with nutrition training, which was very much, I suppose, like theoretical, you know, like I'd done all the training in it, I suppose, but there wasn't so much like there was like a new world kind of open up to me around like the kind of more the psychology around it and the mindset change. Like I knew it, but I didn't really know it about myself. Like it hadn't really opened up in my own head, I suppose, of like the kind of the changes that I needed to make to actually make weight loss happen. You know, it wasn't just about me squeezing myself into a 1,200 calorie diet. Like there was a lot more mindset work that I needed to do to kind of reduce my weight, and that's kind of the journey that it took me on. And again, like that's what I found kind of happens so much with, you know, clients as well, or like there's so many people that are kind of just stuck in this, I'm trying to like squeeze myself into like a diet, but that's actually not the way to go about it.
Right.
And yeah, and just trying to identify much more about what the problem areas are. Like the same with like business, you're trying to build a business, you need to figure out how can you make that work in your life, not, you know,
Mm.
just use a model and try and squeeze yourself into that.
Yeah, and there's no one size fits all at all. It's all very
Yeah.
like uh, it's an individual journey. Expand a bit on like when you said about the mindset, because that plays a huge part. What were some of the shifts that you had to take as part of this journey with, was this for like this was for IVF, was it?
Yeah. Yeah. So the NHS, if you want NHS funded, like it's a little bit different across the UK. Scotland, we are quite lucky, but if you want to be able to access IVF, your BMI needs to be below 30 for NHS funded treatment. Private treatment, it can vary like 35. Some clinics don't even have a BMI at all, which again, like says something, I suppose, about the rule in itself. Um, but sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Oh yeah, the mindset shift. Yeah. So I suppose the kind of biggest things around it were really about understanding, you know, the choices that I'd made in the past were the ones that got me to where I was at that point.
Yeah.
So in order to change, it was me that needed to make different choices. So it's not so much, you know, so if I just keep, you know, kind of mindlessly snacking, mindlessly kind of just eating things and just not really having any awareness of what I'm doing, then this is what got me to where I was, which is fine. But you know, now I was at a point where I needed to change, so I needed to be more mindful. And I think this can also be quite I think this can be an overwhelming part of dieting because you suddenly have to become so hyper focused on food, your intake, and all these kind of things. But I think this is what the reframe, I suppose, happens is similar, you know what I mean, going from like a restrictive mindset to like a growth mindset. You know, how can I help myself? Like that was really, really key, and just changing things around and kind of like disconnecting my feelings from, about the BMI rule or about weight loss, like anything that I'd learned or how I felt about it, like separating that out and kind of just seeing weight loss more as like a project that I needed to work on. Yeah, these were kind of like the key things that really helped me.
Yeah, and like you just said, some of that very much obviously mirrors to business as well. Like you
Mhm.
said, like the amount of work you have to do to how you show up, and as you said, like the change starts with you, and
Yeah,
and owning that and being responsible for your behaviors and the consequences of decisions that you make are so important.
yeah.
Where has your journey gone with what you're alluding to here and IVF, and
Mhm.
where are you right now?
So, well, right now we're very lucky that we're next month we're going to celebrate the first birthday of our daughter, which is
Ah,
nice. Yeah,
congratulations.
so we were, yeah, thank you. So we were really, really lucky that, well, luck, like, so I do like obviously rate and really, stand by like all the changes that I have made like in my lifestyle, being able to reduce my BMI, but also kind of like a load of other nutritional changes basically that are important when it comes to fertility. And I suppose like my husband, the same thing, not to forget it's not just a female issue.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and there was a lot of like waiting and whatnot around, I suppose, to try and actually start treatment. But then we were very lucky that our first round of IVF was successful, basically.
Mm.
And like I said, not to disregard like my efforts in that, but in the end, I think it's also important to acknowledge that there is a tremendous amount of luck in this. There's still a lot of things that we can control, like your BMI, like things like your nutrition, your lifestyle changes. Absolutely, that is the part that can be controlled. But there's also just a lot of genetics, unknowns, just not enough research, especially in general about female health. There's a lot of that missing, I suppose, that we can't really control. But yeah, super, super lucky in that sense that we've got a little girl.
And has a business now come from this? Is it, or did you
Yeah.
have an idea before? What were you doing before?
Yeah. So the business has come from that. So I started it probably around when we just found out that we were gonna carry on with like that, we're going to continue with IVF, like continue the trying to conceive journey with IVF. Basically, that's when I started it. And again, I mean, this also was very much a distraction. Like I wanted to just,
Get it?
get my hands into something, again, just something that, I can't control. Um, I suppose as part of the weight loss and business journey as well, I very much figured out that I'm like quite a bad perfectionist. So I feel like now I'm calling myself a recovering perfectionist because I'm really trying hard to kind of work against that. Um, but yeah, but I suppose as part of that, what happened was we were going through the IVF process, needed distraction, built up the business, which was great. But it really all just came to like crash, burnout, call it whatever. I suppose one when the IVF transfer happened, and I then fell pregnant, and I was like, I'm done. I'm just like I can't. So then I took a break, basically, just to the whole pregnancy, and probably until about maybe May, June this year, I think. And then yeah, since then I'm kind of back to the things with business now.
Were you qualified as a nutritionist before?
Yes, yeah. So I did that like a few years ago, 2017, I think. Yeah. So that was a while ago. Um, and again, like just the interest like was there for it. Like I've always been interested in food, love food.
Mm. And where's your vision going with this now? Where do you see it moving to?
Yeah. So it's like two ways. So there is obviously like my passion, for like for helping people like reduce their BMI, and generally like around like creating more awareness about fertility, infertility,
Mm.
and that I'm kind of pursuing that in terms of also like going back to education, like doing a master's in nutrition as well, and wanting to expand that long term. And I would really like to kind of forge connections with fertility clinics and maybe
Yeah.
more seeing like how I can actually maybe get more into the NHS, if that makes sense. It's quite hard, I suppose, to get anything moving there. But then on the other hand, like being able to build a business that supports me being able to spend as much time with my daughter, really, not like I quit my full-time job, and I don't want to also just put the burden on my husband, supporting us. So I really want to be able to, like, long term, I would really like to be able to become like the main breadwinner, basically, and just give us a bit more freedom
Yeah.
around things. So that's why I'm kind of trying to build a more like passive income stream as well, by creating the course.
Yeah. And who are you targeting? Is it people like, because we said about the awareness part, so
Mhm.
like who is your ideal client with this?
So pretty much kind of similar, like people are similar to me who who have been told, they need to reduce their BMI. Maybe that came as a surprise or they kind of researched it around it, but they very much feel stuck. I suppose a little bit like not similar to me in the sense like what I find like my clients tend to be a lot of people who try to lose weight for a long, long time before they've maybe got into IVF, and they've done this typical kind of yo-yo dieting. Diet starts on Monday, those kind of things basically, um, and they really struggle with emotional eating, or kind of like other disordered eating habits that they just don't really know how to get out of, and like kind of to break the cycle. Um, I think there's also still like a lot of people who just have like certain ideas around food, have like a really negative mindset around it, like you kind of classify foods into good and bad, and kind of beat themselves up for eating like bad foods, junk foods, all these kind of things. And it's really about like trying to help them get out of that mindset, and just to make losing weight more achievable and that it fits into their lifestyle. But yeah, those are kind of like my ideal clients, like the ones that are really struggling with like reducing their BMI. They've tried absolutely everything, and they're now at a stage where they need help, basically.
What was missing for you to see that there's a gap in terms of you creating this versus when you went through the process, like then saying kind of had a crash diet, etc. Because in some ways, to anyone who is into, like, I love my fitness, etc. So I'm very aware that sometimes just saying that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
absolutely help anybody at all. What
Mm-hmm.
what have you seen as a gap in terms of what people won't get and why this is so important for people to look into?
So from my perspective, like the fertility consultant saying like just do a crash diet was just so, like for me who has training in nutrition, like
Mm.
I know not to take that advice. That yes, the desperation kind of thought, I felt like, okay, why not just try it a little bit, but also I didn't really do it for long enough. Like I kind of snapped out of it and was like, no, actually let's go back to what I actually know, and do it the right way. But I suppose I see, like having entered that world at that point of like just researching more about it. And I mean, there's so many Facebook groups, like, people, it's just peer support, people just sharing, well, I did this water fasting, and like achieved like, I don't know, 10 kilos of weight loss in 2 days. I know that that is just water weight. That's not really meaningful weight loss. And a lot
Yeah.
of the times when you're talking about, when we're talking about where maybe a higher BMI or weight can actually affect fertility, um, like that can be really detrimental advice, because you don't want to lose water weight. You actually want to lose fat, basically, to be able to help your ovulation or things like that. Um, yeah, and just seeing, and to this day, like I sometimes, like I have like days where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go into these Facebook groups and see like, laxatives, I don't know, like I said, just like fast for 3 days, do all sorts of stuff. Like people, it's like I understand the desperation because I've been there myself, but it's also so hard to read that, because yeah, how can you help so many people? But that's really the gap that I've seen, where a lot of people, even though there's so much advice on social media,
Yeah.
Google, everywhere, there's so much out there, but I think it just becomes too complicated for
You're
people,
right. Yeah.
because one person tells you not to do this, the next person tells you to do this. Like, and especially in the fertility world, I think there's a lot of people that really prey on people's vulnerabilities, and just to try and make a quick buck, to be quite honest.
Yeah, and I think that's a real risk because I know certain friends who have been and going through the process. And
Hmm.
I'm 37, I've got no kids, and it's in your mind, and that's why, like I said to you,
Yeah,
like it's a conversation somewhat that I'd rather just have openly than be like, no, no,
yeah,
don't talk about that, because
yeah.
it just doesn't help actually at all. And you're
Hmm.
right, the thing that is needed is the support, is the seeking, people understanding, is the reality of sometimes you're saying, yeah, it's hard, but this is what we
Hmm.
do and let's do it together.
Yeah,
And people slowing down the process, taking it step by step, not overnight, things very, again, absolutely parallel to business as well.
yeah.
But having the right people around you, because you're right, there is an abundance of information. We're not got that as an issue at all.
Hmm.
It's the getting it done, it's the taking it, so it's not one cookie kind of thing. It's making
Yeah.
it, like you said, that it's the model that adapts into your life, and not, there
Hmm.
might be changes that you have to make and you have to work on that. There are certain things that you're going to have to do that you might not want to do. And it's
Hmm.
all of that process. But I think even the process itself is the key. And
Yeah.
then I think like business, that's one thing I've noticed. It's helped me be focused to, create success is because I've got the right people around me, the people that get it, the people that understand, have empathy, help genuinely, and give you the right advice. Because I was looking at something around like freezing eggs and stuff
Hmm.
a couple of months back. And again, like you said, like I could even stuff like magazines, you can read things. And I got to a point, I was like, I can find research and something to back up every theory I have
Hmm.
or every
Hmm.
approach that I want. That doesn't help. And
Yeah.
actually, like sometimes there are substantial investments we have to make because they're the right investments. But it's
Hmm.
very, very key to do the research to really slow down, like you said, like think about where you're at, what you want that journey to look like, and taking the time to do it is so
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I think because it's such an emotive topic as well, I think, it's so easy for like your feelings or for your thoughts to really kind of spiral quite quickly, especially with depending on what you're reading, what kind of headlines you're seeing, or I don't know, I feel like TikTok seems to have a lot to answer for as well, like to just get people really just like riled up and things. Um, and yeah, and I think just having like a helping hand there to be able just to kind of guide you and also just to reassure you and be like, yes, there is research to back up, like, both sides, but in a way that really shows you how how you kind of just have to find what is right for you, and you can trial things, and you can, I mean, you can try this, you can try that, and then see how it makes you feel, basically. But ultimately, unfortunately, when it comes to like pregnancy and all these things, there is no guarantee for anything, and that can be
Yeah,
frightening, but I think also reassuring with the right support where you're just like,
yeah,
it's okay to sometimes have a glass of wine. Like it's fine. You know what I mean? It's okay to sometimes, you know, prioritize your mental health and to just like let loose a little bit or whatever that looks like, for you. It doesn't have to always just be super controlling. Oh, I need to, eat all my broccoli and, all these kind of things. Like, it's about trying to find balance. But I think that's why support is really needed in that.
I remember a very I was gonna say, yeah, very dear client a couple of years back who was going through IVF and came on one call once and was just, I just knew I was like, this isn't going to happen.
Hmm.
I said, and she goes, oh, things aren't going well or whatever, and I'm here. And I said,
Hmm.
"Okay." I said, I can't help you in that. I said, but this space is what you want it to be. So we can just talk if you want to do that stay. Because she was lonely. Like that again, like
Hmm.
there was no one else to talk to. I said, that way I don't get it, but we can just talk things through and what that means to you and what help. And I guided her to someone I did know actually who does it very similar, like slightly different, less
Hmm.
nutrition like you do. But again helps people around more than mindset work and everything
Yeah.
and the space just to be heard. And
Hmm.
yeah, it was just being able to then give her that support and alongside what we were doing together, because I said we need something else if we're going to continue doing this in business. You need some extra support right now, um, because otherwise you're going to be like that, and that's
Hmm.
draining, overwhelming, and everything in itself, and isn't going to help you. But just to give it a space, and again, like that, a compassion, as much empathy as I can, in the way of like sometimes just I remember when I worked in a corporate world, I'd say to some people, sometimes you just need to say it, like just be real as well,
Yeah.
like. I am passionate, but I know it's not coming across, or
Yeah.
I do want this, but I'm really nervous, and just say how you
Hmm.
feel. And I said, like, I can't help you in this, but I can just help you just by listening and talking things through and being
Yeah.
that support in another way. And I think because it is lonely, it is
Hmm.
important to give that for people. And that's why when I saw you sharing this, I thought, well, it is useful because it's different and it's the conversations that people don't want to have, or they're the conversations that we are willing to have, but we don't want them openly. We want them more
Hmm.
privately. And there's ways of doing all of that as well. What like part of what I do around messaging is talking around like being different, what you're known for. What do you want to be known for in your business and helping women? And is it just women you help?
Um, yeah, or like I suppose like people with female reproduction, like it just
Yeah.
depends, like how. But I suppose yeah. So far, I've worked with people who are women. Um, what I want to be known for is, so I suppose like where I kind of position myself a little bit differently is like, yes, the nutrition side is there and it's really, really important, but I'm really there to try and help somebody identify what it is in their life that they need to overcome to be able to make the nutrition side work and like the weight loss work. So it's much more about like habit creation, about like behavioral change, mindset shifts. Like that's really what I want people to know me for, and what I want to help people with, ultimately, and helping them realize, being part of a community, like you said, making them feel less lonely, the impact that has on how their weight loss journey transforms, the reframe that brings, being part of like a group of people that all are trying to do the same thing, and how that can kind of drag you along, becoming more aware of the momentum, creating more self-awareness as well. I think that's really like a big part of all of this, is really just becoming more aware of your own feelings, thoughts, behaviors, and how you react to these things. So I think that's really what I want to be known for.
Talk to me about what success means to you.
Okay, I had to think about this one a little bit. I suppose success can, mean different things. For me, obviously, like with IVF, like that was a personal journey, in that sense, really successful in the sense that we have a child. But I suppose also holding space that we were even able to go through the process in itself, like having access to that, being able to reduce my BMI, getting funding, all these kind of things was very successful, because obviously a lot of people also, don't get a child at the end of IVF. But I suppose when it comes to business, I would say like being able to kind of live the life that I want. That's what I'm trying to work towards. But also, like I said earlier, being a perfectionist, I think for me, success also means sometimes like accepting my mistakes. I'm still working on that. But yeah, I think just trying to like get out of like this paralyzing mindset where, you constantly just keep going, keep going, and wanting to be super successful and all these kind of things, but actually kind of dialing back and saying like, no, good enough is success for me, because otherwise I'll never reach the end point.
Alessia, I love it. It's a great conversation, and I keep connected as well, because it's important. I love what you're sharing and everything, and you never know who you know with business. That's what I love about doing things like this. Where can people connect with you and find out more about how they can work with you?
So I'm probably most active on Instagram. So it's AW Nutrition _. If you give me a follow there, I'm super friendly and always happy to chat in my DMs. And yeah, take it from there.
I love that. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I really hope this podcast has taught you something that you never knew before. I want to expand what you think is possible and get you thinking differently in your life and business. So I would really love your feedback. If you're on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, all you need to do is leave a review and share what you like. And if you would like to know more about how I can help you with your messaging or business, making more money, send a message with the keyword podcast, and I'll send you a complimentary audit with me where I will have you looking at your business, and you will walk away with 3 actions to be making more money in your business right now.